In watercolor painting, one of the most powerful tools that we have to create visual interest in our scene is to use the power of opposites. So today, we're going to talk about how to use opposites in your painting to create visual interest. So one way to create beauty in our painting and interest is to use opposites. And there are countless opposites that you can take advantage of. Warm and cool, big and small, light and dark. And so it's important to assess which variety, which group of these opposites could be important in this particular scene. So let's take a look at some of my paintings, and I'm going to talk about what opposites I'm using in each of these scenes. One first opposite I want to look at is scale, and that is the difference in size between two objects. So in this scene, I have this kind of late day neighborhood scene. My main subject was the light on this building, but I wanted to add a little bit more interest. And so by including this figure here, it does a few things for me. It gives me a sense of scale. It shows you how large this object is compared to everything else. And by having a figure in your scene, it gives you a sense of life and more interest in the scene. And so that's one opposite that you can take advantage of, is a sense of scale, particularly when you are including a figure, because right away we intuitively understand how big a human is compared to its environment. So in this scene, an opposite that I'm using is grouping. So over here in the bottom left, I have a group of buildings, and then I have one building that's over here all by itself. So that's another opposite that you can use, creating a group and then having something by itself. So you're creating that juxtaposition. Here is an example of using a couple opposites. One is color temperature. So a lot of the painting is cool, and then there are areas of the painting where I have more warm colors. And where those two meet, create a sense of interest. Here's another example of that. A lot of coolness in the scene and some areas of warmth. An area of warmth right here that brings your interest to this third of the painting. So another opposite that you can use is light and dark. So this is a nocturne scene that I painted, and obviously when a lot of your painting is dark, the areas that are lit up are going to get a lot of attention. So in this painting, we have several examples of opposites. We have some cooler colors in the background, contrasting with some warmer colors in the foreground. Also, softer edges in the background, contrasting with areas of very sharp edges. So edge is one of the most important opposites that we have in watercolor, and you can find use of that in probably every painting. So the sky is a very soft edge, except for this one hard edge in the sky. So you can play around with different edges, and you can automatically bring your viewer's attention here by incorporating that opposite, soft against hard. Here's another example of edges and also scale. So sharp edges bring this whole area forward, soft edges push the area back, and where those two meet, where this beautiful soft edge meets with a really harsh, sharp edge, that juxtaposition, that opposite, creates a clear area of interest here. And so that was kind of the idea around this whole painting, is hard edge against soft background. Also, you could say that these birds up here are an example of scale. So you're seeing a vast distance here, and having these small birds up in the sky helps reinforce that feeling of distance. So here's another example of edge. So a lot of soft edges in the sky, and I've picked one area to have harder edge and more contrast in this third of the painting. And so those opposites create an area of interest here. And you could say the same thing down here with a hard edge tree against the soft lost distance. So really soft clouds, really soft background that fades into almost nothing, with some sharp edges that bring this area really close to the viewer and push this distance a lot further back, because of showing that opposite right here. So a couple things to think about when we think about opposites. The first is find a way to use opposites. So think about some of these, the difference in color temperature, the difference in scale, grouping objects and leaving one object on its own. And think of ways that you can incorporate these into your paintings. So the next thing I'll say is be strategic. Don't make the opposites the focus of your painting, but use them to evoke feeling and bring interest to certain areas of your painting. So as everything in watercolor, don't overdo this. You don't need to be obsessed with a ton of cool colors mixing with warm colors. Just use this as another tool that you have to create beauty and interest and maybe even a little bit of visual poetry in your paintings. And before you go, I wanted to mention, if you haven't checked out my free video lesson, How to Avoid Overworking Your Painting, take a look at it. You can follow the link below. You can get to it in my bio and Instagram. So I've gotten some really good feedback from this lesson, and this is a video lesson that helps address something that I had to work through quite a bit when I was learning how to paint watercolor, and that is overworking my painting. I talk through 8 different tips to help you avoid overworking your painting. You can follow the link below, take a look at it, and I hope it can help you out as well. So thank you for spending some time with me. Keep working, keep pushing, and moving forward in your painting, and I will see you next time.